I wanted to start by just saying a little bit about Tubular and also sharing some data, because that's what we do. We're the most widely used video intelligence platform. And so our data and intelligence is usually more interesting than me. So I'm gonna play a few slides that just tells you who we are, what we do, and some interesting data points that we've been uncovering about cross-platform video. Then I'm gonna turn it over to JC, and he's gonna play some videos. So get ready for that. That's gonna be maybe more fun. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the future of the data-driven studio. What does that look like? And very interestingly, there's a lot of brands in the room, and I think a lot of brands are thinking about how can we build a content studio ourselves, and not just partner with content creators, but how do we build a studio that helps get our message and brand out there and connect directly with fans. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. So let's see if this works. Nope. All right. So basically, if you click again, you're going to see a big stat, which is 74% of all internet traffic will be video in 2 years. So you all know this. Video is a big deal, and it's only growing. If you go to the next slide, there's a lot of video content out there, a very fragmented world. You know, HBO Go, Netflix, Meerkat, Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook. There's video everywhere, and how do you deal with that? If you click again, you can see that. Keep clicking. There's a growth in video, but measurement hasn't kept up. So there's no one out there who's measuring all that content, what works, what doesn't, what's trending, and that's the gap that Tubular aims to fill, and give you the data you need to create the right content, distribute on the right platform. If you click a few more times, one more time, yep, just keep clicking. You'll see that we basically are the largest data resource. We're powering video intelligence, and that's enabling you to create better content strategy, distribution strategy, paid marketing, finding influencers, connecting with influencers, all these things that data are important for, Tubular powers. And we work with about 100 enterprise customers, brands, media companies, video platforms. A lot of you are in the room: Mattel, Pepsi, Activision, Warner Brothers. It's been fun catching up with customers, and we're excited to work with so many of you across the video ecosystem. Today we're tracking 30+ platforms, so it's not just YouTube data. It's Facebook, Instagram, Vine. One day I hope Snapchat. If there's someone from Snapchat here, come talk to me. I would love to pull your data in as well. But you know, it's a cross-platform universe, as Stephanie from Style Hall was saying this morning. It's not just about one platform. It's about how do you build your presence cross-platform. So interesting trend is this democratization of video creation. Anyone's a video creator. So now, you know, NBC has the same power as someone in their basement in Kansas. Anybody can create content and get it seen by an audience. And so what does that mean for brands and media companies? How do you stand out in this crowded universe? How do you create content that resonates with fans when fans are getting to choose the type of content they want to watch? And if you click again, it's not just platform proliferation, it's creator proliferation. So you actually have 2.5 million individual publishers on YouTube alone, and 1,200 of them have over 1 million subscribers. Michelle Phan and many other influencers who are been stopping by throughout the day. And so there's 20,000 brands. That's pretty crowded. Some of them do really well, some of them don't. What's your strategy? How do you use data to create the right kind of content and get seen? And there's a couple different strategies out there. And while JC isn't necessarily a brand, he is a cutting-edge data-driven digital studio. And so we're going to learn from him about what he does, what his strategy, and I think there's a lot that we all can learn from that. And so this is the next slide is the last slide. He's going to talk a bit about PJ and how he found PJ using Tubular software and found the data he needed to make some pretty cool decisions. This is just an example of some of the data that Tubular offers. So I'll turn it over to you to launch into what Newform is and show some videos.
Yeah, of course. So, and you're seeing the screen here. This is the dashboard that you get, any consumer can actually get at the Tubular Labs profile page. So PJ Ligori is our talent that we work with here on a project called Oscar's Hotel. He has a YouTube channel called Kick the PJ. As you can see on the diagram here, his social reach is kind of 1.4 million, and that's an aggregation of the YouTube channel that he has, his Facebook, his Twitter, his Vine, and his Instagram. And so we found PJ about 12 months ago. We at Newform Digital, and let me give you the quick background on Newform. I can talk a lot about PJ. So Newform is 18 months old. We are a digital studio. Our investors, as the introduction said, are Ron Howard, Brian Grazer, and Discovery Communications. And we're really focused on scripted originals for digital audiences. And so these are action adventures, they're dramas, they're comedies. In PJ's case, it's a puppet-driven fantasy world. And we typically take YouTubers, Vimeoers, Instagrammers, and Viners and cast them as lead actors, actresses, and in some cases, they're producers, writers, and directors. We have produced exactly 25 pilots in the last 18 months, and luckily we've sold 17 of those into series, and we're really proud of that stat. I could talk a lot about our content, but I think that the video actually does it better justice. So can we play the company sizzle?
Newform tracked some of us down and gave us a cool opportunity to come together to make a new level of project for the internet.
Newform asked me if I had any cool ideas. It's so cool that a company is giving creators such a unique opportunity.
It's been awesome working with them and just having their faith in us, because they also understand that we know our audience the best, and they've given us that guidance, but also given us a lot of great freedom too.
There's some really heavy hitters behind Newform, so getting those kind of notes is just really important for me as a filmmaker.
I think Newform is the #1 digital company when it comes to making really high quality content with YouTubers.
It's actually been like the best experience we've had working with a third party.
Newform was really, really good because it really helped us fine-tune the script and make it amazing. And I don't think we could have done that on our own.
That we've produced over the last year. I'm excited about this panel because we use Tubular a lot in our business, and we talked about this prior to this conversation. You should probably charge us for more license seats. We use Tubular both in our development process and then in our analytics process. So in our development process, we're casting from these social networks, and we need a data source that can validate some of our creative assumptions and add on to them. And so we use Tubular to find new talent, and then we use a Tubular to kind of cast additional talent for our projects. And the quick story that I haven't even told you yet is, we are religious about the dashboards from Tubular. We had a casting session that just happened in our office last week. We have a partnership with Lisa Kudrow and Dan Bukatinsky's production company, Is or Isn't, and we do all their digital productions. And we've sold a show to Refinery 29. It's an original show. It has the great title of Shitty Boyfriends. It's about shitty boyfriends. And we're doing a casting session in our office, and it's Dan Bukatinsky, who stars in Scandal and other things that you've seen, Lisa Kudrow, obviously of Friends, and our development exec. And our development exec is literally pointing to our Tubular page and saying, this is how big this person is. And those guys are just nodding. It was cool. It was a cool experience.
That's awesome.
So we use Tubular to kind of develop our properties and find new talent. Our business model is really on funding pilots and funding proofs of concept. We release those pilots on typically YouTube channels, and then we use Tubular again, and we look at the results of what is happening in those pilots. And I just have to flip my card to get the stats right, but we're releasing a white paper with you guys today, I think. And we looked at these 25 pilots. We put them up on YouTube. We put them up on the channels of the creators that are in our pilots, and we found that we saw a 150% increase in views on our stuff versus things that are in the channel, and a 33% increase in shares, likes, and comments. And so we see our Newform scripted content performing or outperforming basically everything else that's in the channel. And it really validated kind of some of the creative assumptions that we had.
Yeah, it's amazing content. I think one of the coolest things that Newform is doing is it's not just taking influencers and putting them into the content that they typically create. It's taking influencers and giving them creative license to make something that's even better or that's different. So for example, we see on YouTube, brands get about 1% engagement on average, and YouTube stars get on average about 6% engagement. And with Newform, the content they're creating gets 9% engagement, and it's highly engaging content. It's a new form of content, and it's an exciting thing you guys are doing.
Yeah, the fun part of it are using Tubular for us really in this respect and kind of looking at the results, right, is validating some of these creative assumptions that we have, right? Our creative assumptions are basically that, one, YouTubers, Instagrammers, Vimeo, and Viners, these influencers are the actors, writers, directors of tomorrow, and we're starting to really see that play out from the quality of the creative. And two, we're starting to see that the audience will stick around for a 15-minute pilot that's shot on their page, and they'll comment and they'll like and they'll share, and that's what these numbers kind of bear out.
Yeah, and taking Tubular out of the picture, what do you see as the future of digital content? What do you see moving forward? What are you doing that you are on the cutting edge of something new? So what is it that you're doing, and what do you see moving forward in the future?
Yeah, so let me tell you exactly what's going to happen with digital content. I think it looks a lot.
Thank you. That'd be really nice, actually.
And that was facetious, by the way. It looks a lot like your slide 2, right? Where you have lots and lots of different outlets that are featuring digital video. So we did a quick poll. My job is to go talk to distributors about these projects. I had a 2-week block. I met with 12 different distributors. 11 of those 12 weren't investing in original video content 2 years ago, and only 4 of those 12 existed even 3 years ago. And they're all out there licensing new original video content. So we've seen a proliferation of platforms that really need their, for lack of a better reference, house of cards, and that's what we're trying to produce. I think the other interesting thing is what I see kind of in these panels today is brands and advertisers and marketers taking a step kind of outside the spots and dots model and really thinking about kind of content and influence in new and interesting ways, and how do they get there, right? I guess kind of one of my key takeaways is that the data that platforms like Tubular provide are a good lingua franca. They're a good baseline for us to have our conversations about the value of certain influencers. And that's certainly how we're using your platform today.
Great. And if you could give brands 3 secrets to success around building a digital studio, what would it be?
3 secrets of success.
2 to 5 secrets to success.
So we'll form a line over there.
And then JC will whisper something in your ear.
Exactly. So a couple secrets of success. So one is we have done 25 pilots in a year, and there's a reason for that, right? We think that there is a need in the digital marketplace to produce at volume. And I've heard speaker after speaker today talk about what's the appropriate amount of volume of content per social platform, how much should I be producing and when. And we think from the scripted side that we really need to turn on this kind of scale thing that happens in digital businesses. And so we're focused on these 25 pilots and 17 series over the next year, and we look, as we look out, we're looking to kind of double and triple those numbers. So scale really helps. 2, we want to leverage kind of what already exists and build upon it. And so, finding the right talent, which we use Tubular Lab on, creating the content and then validating those assumptions are really important in how we approach this marketplace. And then I think the last piece of advice that I have for anyone starting a content studio is start 18 months ago. We're well on pace, and it's a rapidly changing environment.
And you guys are working with brands as well, right?
We are, yeah. So typically we're producing kind of these scripted digital originals. We also talk to a lot of brands who say, hey, I want to leverage an influencer in kind of an elevated, more refined production. How do I do that? How do I choose the right influencers? How do I tell story in a concrete, coherent way? And then how can we work together to kind of make sure that gets the distribution of these millennial audiences and these digital audiences that can really kind of see the power of our brand. So we just finished wrapping on a project with Tylenol, and with Tylenol we created kind of a documentary series, all filmed by digital filmmakers and influencers that talk about family, and it's done really well for the brand.
And I feel like a question people often ask about influencer marketing is, how do you measure ROI on it, or does it work? And how do you guys track success of working with with influencers?
Yeah, I mean that's a really hard one. So it's a hard one, but I think we're kind of getting there, right? And so part of what our thesis is that influencers bring their audience, right? And everyone here throughout the day talked a lot about this, but when we talk to distributors, they think about how much they're spending in production and how much they're spending in something like P&A to market their product. And they look at a studio like ours and they say, wow, we can leverage kind of that entire social footprint to market around the productions that we're working with you guys on. And so our success turns out to be how are we motivating those audiences to kind of go, the audiences of the stars that we're casting to go consume the content that we're creating, either on a YouTube platform or on a different platform. And it might be a great time actually to show, if we could pull up that last slide that we were talking about. So we started to talk a little bit about this guy PJ, right? And so PJ Ligori, he is a UK filmmaker. He started on YouTube, I believe, 5.5 to 6 years ago. He is a puppet maker. He made many of his puppets out of cardboard to start. He's a rabid following on YouTube, so something like 750 subscribers. We know of him. We used Tubular to kind of validate some of the assumptions that we knew about PJ. We gave him a little bit of money to make a pilot for us in October of last year. We shot that pilot. And then we put it up on his YouTube channel. And then we looked at the Tubular numbers around the success of that pilot, and especially around the success of that pilot vis-a-vis other things in his channel, right? And we saw that we were getting double the amount of views and triple the amount of watch time on our pilot versus everything else that's in that channel. And so then we took that data set and the creative that we had and took it out to the marketplace. And we took it to Vimeo, and Vimeo came in and they said, we want to invest in this property. We want to turn this into something bigger. And they gave us a little bit of budget to go make a series that will debut on Vimeo on September the 15th. So Oscar's Hotel for Fantastical Creatures. Please set your browsers to oscarshoteltheseries.com and go pre-order the series. We took those dollars from Vimeo. We recast kind of our pilot and went out to a wider group of influencers to star in Oscar's Hotel. And we ended up casting 40 of the biggest social media influencers out there, including PewDiePie, Cutie Pie, Grace Helbig, Hannah Hart, Mamrie Hart, Tyler Oakley, and others. And we can show the sizzle.
So if you can just watch the place for me, I'll be back in about a week.
A week? Uncle, I don't know if I'm exactly qualified.
Oh, don't worry. The place practically runs itself. Do me proud, Oliver. See you in about a week.
So that really came about from a lot of creative energy, but we used data to kind of sell it through.
And you already have seen some pretty promising results around Pretuned In. Do you want to share some of those stats?
Yeah, so Vimeo is a great platform. They have the trailer that we've cut, or that sizzle actually, has been seen well over 1 million times in the last 3 weeks. We released it at Jim Lauterbach's VidCon and the keynote, and the influencers and the fans went crazy. And we have pre-sales on Vimeo on demand. What they're telling us 10x what a typical on-demand show has for them. So we're excited.
So influencers work.
Yeah.
And great content works.
We hope.
Yeah. So we have about 5 minutes left. I want to see if there's any questions. And if not, we can keep asking each other questions.
What was the budget?
Hard hitting.
Oh, Rita, you just go right for it. I like that about you. So the budget is, the best way for me to say the budget for that is it is less than one episode of a network show for a series. For like a show like Community, let's say. Yep.
So, are you gaming the system? You know, are you trying to precast based on data first, talent second, or what's going on? You're kind of, let's cast these guys, let's make it, and then I'm going to take the data because I casted them on the data to show proof of concept. Give me a little, I'm just trying to figure this out a little, understand this.
So there's two things that are happening, right? We're using data to inform our development and casting process. And we now have all these data sources at our fingertips to be able to point and validate to the creative choices that we're making, and that happens through Tubular, and through things like our pilots that we're self-releasing. We can then both build an audience and prove out kind of those creative choices. And so, to answer your question, I think talent and numbers are related, right? The most popular and best YouTubers are there for a reason and have big numbers for a reason. And we're certainly using platforms like Tubular to help find them and to kind of cast the right way. Now, that all being said, we have casting directors, we have people with years of experience in producing and writing and directing that are putting these things together. The punchline that I didn't say about Oscar's Hotel is we were 10 days away from shooting, and we got a phone call from Lisa Henson, who had seen the pilot, and she said, "Who is this guy? How did you find him? And how can we be involved?" And so they put the puppets together for us.
And one other thing that's interesting about the data is data is not just how many subscribers you have or how many views you have. It's how fast you're growing and what's your influencer score and questions like that that dig deeper into finding who are rising stars. And so it's not just people at the top who are already at the top, who everyone knows are at the top. But someone like PJ, who's a rising star with a rabid fan base and also a huge amount of talent. How do you find those people and build properties around them and rise together? So one of Tubular's earliest customers was Awesomeness TV, and they were working with Bethany Moda before she was Bethany Moda. And so the idea, can you find the right talent to build your empire along with, and then find the next rising talent and go from there, I think is a key for anyone looking to build a video audience.
And that's a great point too. I think because you guys have the data sources that are beyond just YouTube or beyond just YouTube and Facebook, candidly, you can kind of capture some of that rising energy faster. I think that all of your data sources inform your bigger influencer number. And one of the things that we pass along quite a bit in the office is your top 25 monthly influencer tracking. And we look at both your aggregated list as well as each individual platform. We see who's peaking, and we try to kind of reverse engineer that a little bit. For you guys, right, we're using your platform in a way that you probably didn't conceive of when you built the thing. What are other examples of people like us that are repurposing basically this great tool?
Yeah, I think video intelligence is the key, and there's so much you can do with data and intelligence, and we're excited by everything that everybody is doing. So one is obviously influencer identification. Another is trending topics. What are moms watching? What's trending with moms? What's their favorite type of content? Not just who are influencers that are popular with them, but what are different video types? For example, there's a trend right now called Getting Unready with Me, where people at the end of the night take their makeup off and film that, not just putting it on in the morning. So for brands out there, can you track interesting content trends and make videos that are in that genre in order to kind of connect with fans and be a part of the conversation that's already happening? Also, 80% of a brand's content is in video is UGC generated. It's not generated by the brand itself. So can you find those people who are already talking about you? What are they saying? Can you give them products to help them and be a part of the story? And so there's a lot of interesting things. People can use it for optimizing paid promotion or for tracking and benchmarking. A lot of different things to do, but we find that everybody is looking for intelligence, and we're out there to try and give it to them.
And then could you just talk a minute? I know we're slightly over, but can you talk just a minute on kind of how the new platforms and the data from the new platforms, like one of the things we're thinking about is how do we market this thing, Oscar's Hotel, right? How do we make a killer Facebook video that will get, the sound will pop on and people will share it? What are you guys seeing on different platforms?
Yeah, interesting. There's a white paper that's floating around here that has some of our analysis cross-platform, but we do see different topics pop on different platforms. So for example, Facebook is big with news, a ton of news content on Facebook. Vine is really big in comedy and sports. YouTube is really big in entertainment and gaming and beauty. And so how do you know, based on what you're creating, there's different platforms you should live on, different ways you should promote it. But the key is, finding those passionate fan bases. And if you are working with influencers, obviously market your PJ content to PJ fans, and that's going to be successful. But yeah, there's a huge amount of data. We're tracking it all. If people are curious, you can download the white paper on realseo.com. But we're continuing to analyze these platforms and the similarities and differences and what works best.